You're maybe a few weeks or a couple of months into being a new parent. You're tired, you're exhausted, you're coping, and then you see it. A flat spot on the back or maybe the side of your baby's head. And instantly there's that little ping, that feeling of, oh no, did I do something wrong? That feeling is very common. But here's the thing. The really important starting point for our discussion today is that for the vast majority of these cases of what we call positional plagiocephaly or flathead syndrome, it's basically mechanical. And the good news, it's often preventable. That's exactly what I want to explore today. I've sifted through the research, I've looked at the causes, but really focused on a couple of simple everyday things that you can do to help keep your baby's head nice and round, or if your baby has a flat spot, to be able to correct it. If you're new to my channel, my name is Cherrick. I'm a pediatric physical therapist and a parent of two wonderful kids. I show proactive parents like you how to use simple touch and movement to help your baby catch up and move ahead. So let's get into today's topic, positional plagiocephaly. Really start with appreciating that baby's skull is very soft. Newborn bones are incredibly soft, thin, and they're super flexible, which kind of makes sense for getting through the birth canal and for all that rapid brain growth that's going to be happening during those early months. It's actually quite an amazing design. But you combine that very soft, moldable skull with the fact that babies have pretty weak neck muscles for the first few months. They don't have that kind of head control yet. Not until around 3 months typically. So when they're lying down, gravity just pulls their head to one side or the other. It just naturally settles. And most babies have a favorite side where they go in one direction all the time. And that provides that constant external pressure on that very specific spot on the back of it or the side of that soft bone. Over time, that pressure causes flattening. It's just physics, basically. So let's nail down what we mean by flattening. There are two main types. The first one is when you think plagiocephaly, think asymmetry. This is where the flattening happens on just one side of the back or the side of the skull. And it gets more pronounced. You might even see the eye or the ear on that flattened side seem like it's a little bit pushed forward. The head shape looks uneven, maybe bulging a bit on the opposite side. And the second type, that's called brachycephaly. This one tends to be more symmetrical right across the entire back of the skull. Think of this type as straight back flattening. And that can sometimes make the head look wider when you look at it from above. In some more severe cases, maybe the forehead seems a bit more prominent. Now let's talk about causes. Let's talk about back sleeping because it feels like that's the central conflict here. And let's be completely clear. Based on all the sources, back sleeping is still essential. It's the number one recommendation to significantly reduce the risk of SIDS. SIDS, if you're not familiar with the acronym, stands for Sudden Infant Death Syndrome. This advice is non-negotiable. Keep putting your babies on their backs to sleep. But that necessary position is how this pressure problem starts for a lot of babies. That prolonged time on their back creates the opportunity for that constant pressure point. So you may be wondering just how quickly this flattening can happen. According to resource, it can start surprisingly fast, sometimes within those first couple of weeks. But there's another major risk factor I need to highlight, which is that something called congenital muscular torticollis. This is a really important point because it's something that parents need to be made aware of because it really changes things. Congenital muscular torticollis is basically a tightness in the sternocleidomastoid muscle on the neck. This one runs from behind the ear down towards the collarbone. And sometimes it gets tight and causes the head to be physically pulled in one direction and rotated in the opposite direction. The critical problem is they find it really hard, sometimes almost impossible, to turn or rotate their head smoothly in the opposite direction. So they're essentially stuck looking one way most of the time. They're locked in. And if you're locked in looking one way, guess where all the pressure goes? Onto that one spot constantly, guaranteeing that a flat spot on that side will actually form. There is a direct link. So here's the takeaway for parents listening. You often start noticing maybe a bit of a flat spot around 6 to 8 weeks. Anytime you notice your baby really struggle to turn their head freely and equally in both directions, maybe they always look towards the right or always look towards the left, that's your cue. See a doctor. Don't wait, because if it is torticollis, early intervention with a physiotherapist if you're in the UK or a physical therapist if you're in the United States, doing specific stretches can make a huge difference. Often it can resolve the tightness and prevent the flattening from getting any worse, potentially avoiding things like helmets later on. So early PT for torticollis is crucial. Let's move on and get to what we call that aha moment in my research. The container conundrum. What are we actually talking about here? We're talking about all those convenient devices designed to hold the baby. Things like baby swings, bouncer seats, those little rock and plays that are so popular, and even essential things like car seats when used outside the car for long periods. So anything that props up or holds them in place. And here's the recommendation. And I found it even as a physical therapist to be quite startling when I came across it. The advice is that babies should spend a maximum of 2 to 3 hours per day total in all of these devices or containers combined. 2 to 3 hours total. If you want to add up swing time, the bouncer time, the car seat time, if you bring it inside, all of it combined, 2 to 3 hours max in a 24-hour period. To be honest with you, that's really not a lot of time, is it? Especially when you think about travel or just needing a safe spot for 5 minutes. But the research has been strict and there's data suggesting why. One organization I looked at, they treat babies for flat spots, and they reported that out of nearly 2,000 babies that they've treated, 75% had regularly used these types of baby containers. 75%, that's a huge correlation. It really suggests a strong link, and that's why it seems to be twofold. First, the shape of these things. Many of them, especially the deeper or more reclined ones, they cradle the head in a way that puts constant pressure, focus pressure on the exact same spot on the back of that soft skull. It just speeds up the misshaping. So the shape itself creates the pressure point, and the second part, it's about the movement, or rather the lack of movement. So it's not just the head shape, it's developmental. These containers by design restrict the baby's ability to move freely. They don't challenge your baby's muscles. They are passive. They're just containing your baby. Your baby is just sitting there watching the world go by, instead of being on the floor where they might try to lift their head up or turn to look at something or engage their core back muscles. They're just held in place. It makes life easy for baby in the moment, but they miss out on that crucial work of building strength and coordination. And they're not getting a variety of sensory input either, if they're always in the same position. So the big mission becomes clear. Get babies out of the containers more, get them on the floor, encourage movement, vary their positions constantly. If the problem is constant, uneven pressure, the solution has to be constant, varied rotation. Which brings us to the rotation routine. The idea is you need even exposure, even pressure distribution all around. You need to constantly rotate the pressure point so no single spot gets flattened. We need to apply this thinking to almost every single thing that you do with your baby. Let's break it down, and I'm going to give you a couple of very specific positions and things that you can use to get your baby and keep your baby's head. So where do we start? Sleep stays their biggest tongue, but remember, back sleeping has to stay. So we need strategies to counteract the constant back pressure while they're sleeping safely on their backs. We can't exactly prop them on their side while they sleep because that's not safe. But we can influence which way their head naturally turns. One simple trick is to just gently turn their head yourself after they've fallen asleep. Turn it to the left one nap or one night, then to the right the next nap. So, manual head turning. The next thing you can do is use the environment. Babies are naturally curious. Position the crib so one side faces a boring blank wall and the other side faces the more interesting room. The door, the window, maybe the television, out of reach. And your baby will naturally turn their head one way, right? So they turn their head to look at the interesting stuff. One night, put their feet at one end of the crib. The next night, flip them 180 degrees so that their head is where their feet were. If the interesting side of the room stays the same, they have to turn their head the opposite way to look towards it. So essentially, you are forcing a head turn just by changing their orientation. I know that sounds simple, but you got to remember to do it. What about a wait time, carrying, and feeding? There are some unique and big opportunities here. We all tend to have a dominant arm. I'm right-handed. We hold the baby the same way almost automatically. Is often resting against you in the exact same spot. And they always have their head looking out in the same direction. So the fix is constantly switch arms. I know this is easier said than done when you're juggling a whole bunch of things. But try to make it a habit. Maybe use your right arm for one whole wake period or even one full day, then switch to the left the next. This will automatically cause baby to rotate their head in the opposite direction. Also, mix the way you're carrying them, like different holds. Get pressure off of the back of the skull. Try a football hold or carrying them upright over your shoulder or even sideline. Hold them in a sideline position across your lap. Variety is the key. I mentioned a bottle feeding hack, and this is simple but effective. Just switch which arm you cradle the baby in for each feed. If we're on the left arm for the 10 a.m. feed, make sure you're on the right arm for the 1 p.m. feed. And you just keep on switching back and forth, and that automatically changes the pressure point and which way they look. They'll naturally turn their head slightly outwards away from your body. So switching arms switches the direction they look and the pressure spot. If you're curious about baby wearing, using wraps or carriers, that seems like it would help keeping them upright, and this is definitely something I love. Baby wearing is a fantastic opportunity for setting them completely and getting them completely off the back of their head. Just one small tip here, when they fall asleep in a carrier or a wrap, their head will rest on your chest. Gently turn their head so it rests on one cheek one time, and then the next time you wear them to your little baby carrier, turn their head the opposite way so that their head rests on the other cheek. Again, just rotating the pressure. That's the key take-home message here. It's really about conscious rotation in every little activity that you do. If you think about my chicken rotisserie theory and you use that for diaper changes and playtime, pamper changes are a great opportunity for rotating your baby because they happen so often. Think about your changing table setup. If you always place the baby down with their head on, say, your left side, they probably turn their head right to look at you or to react to the sounds that you're making as you're talking to them while you're changing. So the simple hack, next diaper change, deliberately place their head on your right side and they'll likely turn to the left to look at you. Instant rotation. I mentioned integrating more into the diaper change. This is where the rotisserie idea really comes in. Don't just change them and pick them up. Use that moment and take advantage of it. After you take the dirty diaper off, them gently onto one side for maybe 30 seconds. Then roll them onto their tummy for 30 seconds to a minute. Even that short burst counts. Then roll them onto the other side for 30 seconds before you put the clean diaper on, and now you've done a little rotation sequence right there. You have some tummy time built right into the diaper change, and that's going to happen multiple times a day. I always advise parents when I'm working with them and we're talking about tummy time that I don't want you to do a 30-minute misery marathon with your baby. I want you to do 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, scattered throughout the day of tummy time, and this will all add up and get you to your desired goal of having 60 minutes of tummy time. And these little chunks of time, they add up pretty quickly. It makes tummy time less daunting because it's just these short bursts. We all know how important tummy time is. It gets them off their back entirely. But I do know that a lot of babies hate it. Floor tummy time is great, but if they resist, here is a little hack that you can try. Just do the easier version, lay back, recline your body to a 45-degree angle, put baby face down on your chest, tummy down, so gravity helps them a little bit. It takes less effort on their part, and it still makes them work their neck muscles to look up at you. But it's often better tolerated, especially when they're very young. Floor play. You can use the same principle. Encourage turning. Don't always put the interesting toys straight in front of them. Place toys off to one side or the other and position yourself in different spots around the room so that baby will have to turn their head to look at you. And this will keep some variety in your play routine with your little one and get them switching sides and constantly rotating and moving and varying their different pressure points. That's the core strategy. Before I wrap up, there was a really crucial warning in the sources about specific products. The American Academy of Pediatrics and other health bodies strongly advise against using any kind of baby pillow or head reshaping device marketed to prevent or treat flathead syndrome. Those little pillows with the dip in the middle, avoid them. Avoid them completely. They are considered unsafe for sleep. There's a risk of suffocation if your baby turns their face into the soft material, and they can cause overheating. A lot of them have a component in them where they're elevating baby's head slightly, and this can cause their chin to tuck down towards the top of their chest and can actually block their airway. You want to stay away from these types of devices because they make breathing more difficult. Flat on their back on a firm mattress is the only safe way. No pillows, no bedding, any of that kind of stuff. Hopefully that's crystal clear. No special pillows. And a final reminder about seeking help. If you have any concerns about your baby's head shape, or especially if you notice they really can't turn their head easily both ways, don't wait and see. Talk to your doctor or pediatric physical therapist because early intervention, especially for that muscle tightness, is key. It can often prevent a mild issue from becoming a more significant one, requiring more involved treatment like a helmet. I know we've covered a lot, but the core is simple. Variety. This isn't about one big fix. The way to prevent or manage flathead syndrome is about making lots of small conscious choices throughout the day. Tiny rotations, tiny shifts in position that all add up. It's about ensuring they experience the world and the pressure on their head from lots of different angles. And remember, getting them out of those containers and onto the floor. That's going to make a huge difference. It's about so much more than just head shape. This is about motor skills, muscle development. It's about allowing them those crucial sensory experiences, letting them explore movement, challenging their bodies to get stronger, building that head control, engaging their core, things that just don't happen when they're passively contained. That's all I have for you today, my friends. My parents, I will see you in the next episode. If you want to know about container baby syndrome, I also did a deep dive into that and warned about how to use them and when to use them and when to avoid them. So you should definitely check that out. I'm going to drop the link in the bottom of this video. Okay? I'll talk to you soon. Hit that notification bell and I will see you in the next episode.